I read Slow Productivity by Cal Newport, and I wanted to kind of concrete the ideas and the principles I got from the book by putting it to a board game. This is the video kind of explaining all that. Now, this isn't going to be a good game at all. I'm not balanced it, really play tested it. It's really just to like get the ideas and kind of convey them through board game mechanics in a way that you can sort of see them play out. And I wanted to like push more on this board game. Totally could, but likely not because there's other books I'm reading that I also want to do this to really concrete the ideas. Now, just as this board game is probably not going to be that good to really play, I don't think this video is going to be great at all. I was spinning my wheels trying to like do it better, but I don't know, it's the first one. I think it's better to just get something done, no matter how rough it is, and then move on to the next and get better each time. So with that, let's talk about slow productivity. Now, the book, called Newport, the focus is stop doing pseudo productivity, which is the idea that like you're doing busy work that makes it seem like you're being productive, but in actuality, you're not really making the impact you think you're doing with that busy work. Um, a lot of us might know what busy work is, but like you're just going to like a lot of meetings or generating a lot of reports or things like that that aren't really producing results. They're not moving the needle anyway or actually making any sort of impact. They're just seeming like you're being busy. And Newport goes to say like this is something that's really specific in knowledge work where the output isn't the same as like manual physical labor. Like if you are building a house and you work in the house building industry, like you can see that the house is moving along when the frames are up, when the drywall's up, when the installation's in. It's a lot easier to see those landmarks than it is with knowledge work, where sometimes like the direct effort you put in doesn't exactly result in an immediate output that's tangible. So that's what Newport's board is. And his whole stance really kind of comes down to like these three principles. Um, do less, obsess over quality, and ooh, what was the third one? Newport's book really lands on three principles to really help you combat um, false productivity or pseudo productivity. That's do less, work at a natural pace, and obsess over quality. And Newport's stance is if you do this, you're actually going to make impactful work. So those principles are what I tried to reflect here in this very basic prototype of the game. Now, you'll see a miscellaneous of components. I just took a bunch from other games and we printed what I needed to really get the idea across. And there will be cases where like the physical components and what I have printed on the card don't align. Uh, it's whatever. We're just trying to keep it moving. Now, the board game is fairly simple. Your turn just consists of playing out days of your working life, where you're taking on projects and trying to do good at those projects to get money and a thing called here prestige. In the book, there's this idea like you have this grand mission that you are trying to accomplish. Think of it as like your masterpiece that you're trying to work up to. And it could be like a scientific breakthrough where you discover something really new, or it could be just working less hours, like having a 3 hour workday. Anything big, lofty that you aspire to. And Newport really stands as like doing that busy work gets in the way of that because you're too focused on doing that busy work versus moving the needle on that big goal. So in here, the big goal is really abstract, and I just kind of focused on like you want to do the most prestigious job or get the most prestigious award, something like that. And that prestige is reflected by these little ribbon tokens. You'll see them here, here. And the idea is as you do low prestige projects, the cost to get into them, you can do them, you'll get paid out. Depending on your completion of it, you'll get money for it as well as prestige points, which you can then use to unlock higher prestige projects, which will give you more money, more work, more prestige, right? And you keep doing that until you reach a certain prestige level that gets you across the line. So we'll start with this project as an example where I'm a content marketer, I get this, and I want to take on 3 tasks. There's no limit to the number of tasks you can do or take on, but you do have fixed capacity. So you see this project here, let me get my little stylus. This project here takes 3 capacity to work, so I pull from my capacity track. And your capacity is a big thing in in Slow Productivity, the book, where you only have so much bandwidth. You can only work so many things before you start to burn out or you lose the energy to do it. So in here, I'm halfway through my bandwidth. I can keep doing things. But if I take on just even another project that requires 2 capacity, boom, boom, you'll notice here I get like a minus to my work rolls, which is going to impact my effectiveness. Now, I'll say this at the top. The actual raw numbers of this game are completely unbalanced. They're probably not good, but we're just going to move on and assume that's the impact. But let's treat it like I'm taking these 3 tasks on. Worked, I paid my capacity load, and I'm just trying to check these boxes off. I've got these dice here that just represent the time I have in the day. Right now, each dice is about 30 minutes of the day. If I were to do this game better, I'd probably rebalance it. If I were to really do this game, I'd probably try to avoid raw numbers as possible. But here we are. And so I'm trying to take on this like 3 capacity. You can roll any number of dice you want, but once you're out of dice, that's the end of your day. So say I want to roll for this 30 here. 3 dice. I don't think I can do it in 3. I'm going to do 6. Be real ambitious. A big chunk of my day. 10, 6, 9, 20. Not even close on that. I'm still going for it, so I'll roll 4 more, because maybe that will get me the 10 I need. Blew through it. That's enough. I stopped counting. We'll assume. But maybe I'm going for the 46 there. Or maybe I spent all my dice completing this and this. Totally fine. I'll get the, the quality work tokens for it. And again, I didn't have enough for this. But we'll just stack those off to the side next to my mission, because that's what I'm trying to complete. And we'll roll these. That's like the end of my day. I'll get these capacities back. So I didn't even do the negatives. My capacity is back on that. But what do you think that got started and didn't complete? Let's say I had 1 progress on this. I'd leave some sort of token to say like that's the value I have on there. So 1, these go off to the side. And then this is rolling on to the next day. And the next day is important because you have a tax to it. Here it was like 1 half die, but to keep things easy, we're going to say you lose 1 die from your pool. So now you've got 1 less die to roll for that day because you're paying the ongoing daily tax for your ongoing task. And that is a big concept or point of slow productivity. If you take on too much, not only do you lose your capacity because you're outrunning it, but for your ongoing tasks that aren't getting completed across the day, it's actually costing you time to just do the update and maintenance for it, where you need to talk to the people who you're responding to about it. So those are the big things where you're really trying to manage your capacity and not spend too much daily tax where you lose dice from trying to do too much. And in this case with these 3 cards, it's not that big a deal, but see, I was also working on this and I spent a lot of capacity just trying to do like here, and we'll replace your 3 with this 1. Key in here, and I've just got like bad rolls. I'm tapped on capacity. I'm getting punished for stretching myself too thin. And since I'm not completing everything every day, there's like a daily cost to it where my ability to keep working on it diminishes because I had too much. The key thing is just to focus on completing tasks. That way you can get it across and get this quality through there. Now, the other thing to it is these quality tokens. As sort of stated at the beginning, I don't know if these tokens to get through, but like, as you complete tasks at different scales, you get tokens for it. You'll then exchange those tokens to just complete a job. So we're gonna shuffle these back and say, like, I did it all for this here. The job's complete. I did enough. We'll put this project aside. Depending on what I scaled on it for this project, I'll get some money, 15 money. And I don't have the money fleshed out in this prototype, but like money is basically essential to your lose condition as well as like being able to buy tools, which I'll get to in a minute. Maybe even sometimes the shakeups. But you need money. If you run out of money, you'll have like a daily cost of living. And if you run out of money, you sort of lose. If you can't pay your daily costs, you lose. But upon completion for doing enough quality work, you'll like get money or you'll get prestige. And these prestige tokens add up. And again, you just keep amassing these so you can upgrade to higher quality projects like this 4 one, which will give you more money or more prestige upon completion. Oh, you got cut off. You're supposed to have more on you. These prints, man. But that is the core idea of like obsess over quality that Newport speaks about, where if you spend more time focused on doing quality work, you can get better quality projects that will give you more money or more of what you're looking for. And with that more money, the idea is you'll feel less pressure to take on a lot of smaller projects and smaller tasks that aren't allowing you to focus to get back to doing the core thing. Now, the work at a natural pace is a sort of tricky one to do in this mechanic, and the idea that I was going for it was that you can buy tools or use shakeups, which are basically things that allow you to break out of your regular routine. Like tools reduce your daily tax. So those daily taxes that you were getting for these things, you just cut them, and that's an easy thing. Now, tools do have a daily upkeep cost. You have to keep paying for your tools as you do. But that's the key idea of tools, where it just makes it easier to do that. Shakeups, on the other hand, are what's really going to help you work at a natural pace. The idea, Newport says, is like if you get outside, if you do something that's different than your regular routine, it might help you get out of a rut. And this here, this very rudimentary game, like you spend some time off to the side that day to use the shakeups, and shakeups are like one-off spells, right? That will give you +4 quality to any project because you opened your imagination at the movies, you saw things from a different light. Or like this one here, where you just take a walk in the woods and you can re-roll dice because you're getting some freshness, right? That is the key idea of shakeups, to just do something different. And this loose, real rough, poorly kind of demoed version of slow productivity inspired board game is really trying to capture those core ideas, to sink them in, where you should obsess over quality because that's what's going to unlock better jobs. If you get known for doing really good work, you're going to be able to get jobs that pay better and allow you to not work on as many other things, in theory, or at least give you more prestige and open the doorway to even better jobs that ideally lead to your big vision, the master thing that you're trying to get done. If you work at a natural pace, go out, use tools to like lessen some of the load that's going on your day to day, or just take a walk in the woods to see something new and get inspired, and not put so much pressure on just optimizing every hour, every day. Your brain's going to do a lot better. Because again, this is focused on knowledge work, and sometimes your brain needs a break or a new angle or just something to freshen it up. And lastly, if you do less, you can focus more on being more impactful on what you're working on. Your quality won't have to be stretched this thin. The dice you roll for the time you work can produce more fruitful impact because you'll spit out better output. So yeah. So again, this is basically Slow Productivity, the book inspired board game. This prototype's real rough. If I were to reapproach it, there are two things I'd probably do if I were to do this differently. The core ideas are still solid. Work at a slower pace. Find a way to put pressure on doing too much that hurts you. And again, I think that's done by capacity and a daily tax. It just really punishes you for spreading yourself too thin and having too many ongoing projects. You really need to focus, that way you can do more, as well as just optimizing on doing quality work as turns to this. So I think those ideas are solid. The thing I would change if I were to keep this a board game is to move away from numbers as much and focus on vibes. What I find here is there's like a lot of tables on the cards, and that's just not quite right. Also, in this demo, there's only a few project cards per project, but in reality, there's probably a lot more projects that can go on and a lot more project cards, and that's just a lot of cards. I personally am not a fan of huge boxes now. As I get older, I'm just like, oh, that's too many components. I kind of want to lessen it. So I'd find a way to sort of simplify it to be a little bit more abstract in the actual completing of task, what tasks are. That way, it's just not as many specific things and numbers to check. Um, proving these things with numbers, like with numbers, it's hard to make this example, and I felt that was a big risk. Um, the other thing I would do though is I wouldn't make this a board game at all. I think doing it as a board game is a good idea to roughly get the concepts of how the mechanics work from the principles, but in reality, I think there's a lot more you can do if this were a single player video game that still has some of those core ideas. Like if you're taking on too many tasks, you actively lose capacity, you get basically punished for having too many things going on. But I think with a video game, you could do a few more things. Instead of having dice to reflect the actual work and quality you do, it's like micro tasks, mini games that can then reflect that. There's a whole other aspect that the book goes into that really tough to reflect in a board game, and that's relationships with other people, specifically the people who are paying you to do work, where tough to reflect here in a board game that's sort of set up for a single player. But one of the things to doing less is being able to say, no, person who's paying me to do this project, I don't think that's actually as impactful as you think it is. Can I turn down this particular task? Key. That sort of relationship is very tough. I don't say it's tough to model in this board game prototype, but it was an aspect that I just knew I wasn't going to take for this prototype because those core three things I wanted to do. But with a video game, I think you can do that as well as have a lot more scale to have way more tasks to our projects, different projects to do, and ultimately even different grand visions, like what you're scaling up to. Like building prestige is just like that's probably like the weakest aspect I feel of this prototype. Well, of this board game. Um, and I feel if at the start you say like this is the big thing I want to do and I'm taking different projects to get me there, that feels like a lot more driving. Though admittedly, I think a lot of us who work don't have this grand vision where I want to make this dramatic breakthrough. But even the one thing that the slow productivity states are like working a 3-day work week. I think we can all agree that we want that. And finding ways to get to that path seems like it'd be really better suited for a board game than trying to I'm sorry, better suited for a video game than this board game that I kind of got here. But again, the core reason for this was just to explore the ideas cemented in my head by putting the concepts of slow productivity into a board game so I can kind of see mechanically how it plays out in what levers really affect each other and how it all locks in together. So that's this. I've been Carey. I guess I'm done.